The CDC has released new school guidelines and strongly favors getting children back in the classroom. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I'm Brian Abel.
And I'm Carolyn Clifford. The agency points to evidence that indicates children are less likely to spread the coronavirus. The CDC also says that schools play a critical role in supporting the whole child, not just their academic achievement.
Here to share the details is our chief health editor, Dr. Parthanandi. And Doc, it seems like these CDC guidelines, a lot of it is dependent on whether students will not be kids and can follow these. I want to ask, are you in favor of students returning to school?
Yeah, yes, Brian and Carolyn, I am in favor of kids returning to schools, but only if schools, families, and students comply with the guidelines. That's a big if, right? Now, to be honest, I'm somewhat concerned. I have 3 school-age kids, right? Plus, I have a 8-month-old baby, and my wife and I are trying to figure out what's best for our families. Like most schools, our schools have the option of in-person learning or some sort of online learning. And some schools are even offering a hybrid structure where half the kids, right, attend in-person instruction on certain days. Right now, we are favoring going in school and doing in-school instruction. But I realize this may not work for every family. What's right for my family may not be right for yours. It's not an easy decision right now.
Right. It's a really tough decision for everyone. Now, Dr. Nandi, the CDC says that children are less likely to spread the virus. What does science tell us about this?
So, Carolyn, it's not always 100% clear, but here's what the international research says, right? It suggests that COVID-19 is a low risk for school-age children. So I'll say it again, low risk for school-age children, but the data is somewhat limited. Here's what we do know, Carolyn, is that in South Korea and Vietnam, students were most likely to contact COVID-19 from an adult family member. In France, Australia, and Ireland, reports suggest that students are not as likely to pass the virus to other students when compared to household contacts. Now, none of these studies are 100% conclusive, right? But the general consensus that schools reopening is considered safe in communities that have low transmission rates. So that's a big if, right? You have to keep those low transmission rates. And one other thing I want to point out is that here in the U.S., kids under 18 make up less than 7% of reported COVID-19 cases and are less than 0.1% of COVID-19 related deaths among this age group.
Doc, schools, as mentioned by the CDC, can also support the whole child. What does that mean?
So, Brian, so kids, right, they need their friends. They also need social interaction with peers for their emotional health. There are also key services that some families really rely on, and you know this, food programs, mental health care, speech language therapy, or special education. Plus, we know that time spent out of school can lead to severe learning loss for some students. And finally, some parents just rely on school so stay open so they can go to work and earn a living. All these are important.
They certainly are, Dr. Nandi. Now, do you have safety precautions for all of our families watching you right now?
100%. And here's what we do in our house, right? So I'm already doing this. When I get home from seeing patients, I immediately do what? Change my clothes, wash my hands as soon as I walk in the door. And I would recommend that kids do the same thing, that your children, when returning home from school, they change their clothes and wash their hands. My kids will be wearing masks even before they get to school so they can practice, but they'll be wearing masks, washing their hands often. And if they can't wash their hands, they'll learn how to use hand sanitizer while at school. And parents, right, we should keep a close eye on our kids for signs of infectious disease, infectious illness every single day. And I've said this a gazillion times before. If they are sick, do not send them to school. And this again applies. In fact, if the virus is so contagious, all families should isolate themselves and stay at home. If someone in the household gets COVID-19, it's that important. But right now, I'm favoring sending my kids to in-school instruction. But we'll have to see the data, and every family has to make a decision for themselves.
Such good advice as always, Dr. Nandi. We so appreciate your expertise.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for helping us navigate a very difficult subject. And don't forget, you can watch Dr. Nandi on Sunday at 5 p.m. right here on 7. And this week, Dr. Nandi is talking about irritable bowel syndrome disease and what could be a hindrance for a cure.
We'll be watching for sure.